Hey, this is Chuck from Cubold Gaming, and today we will be doing a buyer pass on the newly released Lords of the Fallen. Not to be confused with Lords of the Fallen back from 2014. I have personally played the 2014 Lords of the Fallen and couldn't finish it since I didn't really enjoy the game all that much. With this new version of Lords of the Fallen, the same team got together and developed a reboot sequel that looked very intuitive in the gameplay trailers they showed off. When we finally got our hands on the game, we were pleasantly surprised at how fun the game actually was. This video is sponsored by Aura. Aura is an identity theft service and fraud protection for your finances, personal info, and family. It's easy to understand, simple to set up, and all in one place. Not many people know this, but every 14 seconds, someone becomes a victim of identity theft, which has cost the US over $56 billion in 2020 alone. Aura gives you a secure password manager, identity theft protection, a VPN, antivirus, and more, all in one place. If you use our sponsored link in the description of this video, you will get a free 2-week trial for Aura to test out the services. And if you decide you don't like it, there is no charge to you. Alright, back to the video. All footage that we are showing is within the first hour of the game, so there are no spoilers for those who are going to pick the game up for themselves. To keep it plain and short for those who are wondering, the game is very fun, but extremely frustrating at times. There is a unique mechanic that the developers added in this game with the Umbral Lamp. You can use this lamp to peer into the world of the undead. This Umbral area is actually a place you can fully explore, but there are a lot of dangerous enemies in this world. The only way you can enter this world is if you use the lamp to basically kill yourself or die by another enemy. What this means is that you actually get a second chance even if you die. This also is the same for boss fights, kind of like Sekiro's revive mechanic. This Umbral realm is one of the main issues with the game, at least for us. It's a really cool and unique mechanic for the first couple hours of the game, but after that, the game just seems to get so much harder, but not in a fun way. If you enter the Umbral, which you will have to do to progress the game at some point, then you might be bombarded with an unnecessary number of enemies. Not only are there enemies in this Umbral realm, but the normal enemies in the main realm show up in the Umbral realm as well. So the amount of times we died when there was no way to escape was uncountable. People might say that you need to get good, but there were points in the game that we just wanted to rush through because it was just tedious. The only other negative I have about the game is the enemy aggro range. For those who don't know what that is, it is how far an enemy will chase you after they notice you. There seems to be no stopping point for the enemies, so if you run past a group of enemies to grab an item or complete an objective, you might be bombarded by a ton of enemies and die. The closest thing we can compare this game to is Dark Souls 2, because it feels extremely similar to how that game feels. For people who know me, they know that I like to 100% these types of games, and I really enjoy doing it, but this one for me, I am not going to 100%. I beat the game once with the main ending to the game and didn't want to play through it again, so keep that in mind. To put that into perspective, I ended up beating Elden Ring 7 times. Now, since we got the negatives out of the way, here is what the game does right. The main thing we wanted to mention are the graphics. They are absolutely incredible. It is made in Unreal Engine 5 and it really shows here. The world design of the game is also incredibly well done because there were so many times that we just stopped and looked out in the distance to see what the developers created. The enemy designs are also really well done. The only gripe we have about the enemies is that they reuse earlier bosses in the game for regular enemies later on. There are a ton of new enemy designs that get harder as the game goes on. Not going to spoil anything, but the last area in the game is extremely difficult because they put a lot of very hard enemies around in the area. We also wanted to mention the multiplayer aspect of the game, which is very good. So there are a couple of options for multiplayer. You can invade another player, help out another player, or have someone join your game. The developer said that there was going to be a seamless co-op, but people are angry that this is not entirely true. People thought they meant that both the host and the person who joined will have all progress saved, but that is only true for the host. The seamless co-op just means that the person who joined won't get sent back to their world, until the host kicks them from their world. It's actually a step up from the co-op in FromSoft games, which is nice. The bosses of the game are really well done. Each boss is unique and poses a decent challenge. Most of the bosses in the game will be defeated in at most a couple of tries, but there were only a couple bosses that gave us trouble, but for the most part, they were pretty easy and fun to fight. We do have to say that one of the final bosses in the game is absolutely terrible. Each ending to the game has you fighting a different final boss, so the other endings might be better than the one we got. So if you want to get the game for the bosses, this isn't going to scratch that itch for you. Optimization for the game isn't as bad as people say it is. If you're having trouble getting decent frames on even an expensive rig, try turning reflections and global illumination to medium. For some reason, the game activates ray tracing on both options on settings higher than medium that make the game run terribly for a lot of people. The developers are updating the game with patches and optimizations daily, so that is a great thing to see. The game does have replayability, but I personally can't see myself doing another playthrough because it felt more like I need to get through the game rather than having a lot of fun with it. It felt like more of a chore to get through certain areas, especially when they force you to enter the Umbral Realm to progress the game. If they made the game in a way that the Umbral Realm was optional, then the game might be a lot better for us. It gave the same vibes as Dark Souls 3's Exploration, but the Umbral Realm just complicates it a bit too much. Unfortunately, there is no demo for people to try out if they are curious about how the game feels. If you are really curious, then you could always refund the game if you don't enjoy it. I wouldn't entirely trust that though, since the game in the first 10 to 15 hours is probably the best sections of the game. The farther you get into the game, the harder and the more frustrating it will be. So if you think you might enjoy the game, we would recommend getting the game when it goes on sale. There are a ton of other games to enjoy right now, so just wait on this game unless you are absolutely sure you want to play it. We played the game on PC, but we have heard that the PS5 version is probably the best place to play the game since it is optimized the most. Let us know down in the comment section below if you picked up the game, or at least thinking about it, and we will try to respond to your comments. Also consider checking out our gaming podcast where we talk about all sorts of gaming news and games that we think are interesting. All links are in the description, and thanks for watching.